It's Jim Monaghan along with Chris Swendeman. We're back with the 2 minute drill. And Swendy, since the last time we spoke, the Giants have a new coach.
They do. Interim Mike Kafka is picking up where Brian Daboll left off, getting a lead and then losing it at the end of the game. So consistency is key for the Giants right now. And I will tell you, Jim, I put together a list of the names that have been bandied about so far for Giant head coach.
Okay.
And this is a pretty ugly ass list. Not gonna lie. This is the not the who's who, but the who the heck maybe are. I mean, names like, do any of these excite you? Mike McCarthy,
Huh.
Matt Nagy, Arthur Smith, Steve Spagnuolo, former Giant. That could have possibilities.
Maybe.
Lou Anarumo
Wow.
or Chris Shula. I mean, this is not the season to be picking a coach yet, unless they're at the end of the year, unless there are a couple coaches that we don't know about yet that get fired. Maybe Pittsburgh makes a change with Mike Tomlin. You could see a couple other coaches maybe on the hot seat, but I mean, do any of these names inspire confidence? Like, oh, let's go get this guy.
I guess if it were a few years ago, you'd say Mike McCarthy.
I mean, listen, he had 3 12-win seasons back to back to back in Dallas, but never won a playoff game or won one playoff game. Not impressive. I mean, he basically rode Aaron Rodgers to his one Super. And a lot of the pundits will say, "Well, he's got a Super Bowl ring." He also had Aaron Rodgers in his prime. That always helps. As much as Giant fans are not going to want to hear me say this, could you do worse than John Gruden? Maybe, people say, oh, the game has passed them by. Does anybody have the football acumen right now in the list that I just ran off, or John Gruden? I'd rather take my gamble with Gruden at this point. The Giants keep recycling these coaches, and they keep trying to find the magic since Coughlin, and it's not working. At least Gruden's got the resume behind him. Maybe he's been away too long. I get it. And I get the controversy with the NFL. But I mean, if I'm talking about Matt Nagy or Arthur Smith, give me John Gruden 6 ways to Sunday.
I think if I'm going off that list and just track record, McCarthy and Spagnuolo because of the track record. I think that's it. But again, their names don't excite me. And the name that I'm glad that you did not include on that list, which I've seen a few fans throw out, is Bill Belichick.
No.
Boy, you want to talk about a ship that has sailed?
No.
Could you imagine the disaster that could possibly turn into?
No. You need stability right now. You don't need that. I get the Bill Belichick. A couple years ago when he first left the Patriots, it was great to wax poetic and say, oh, Bill Belichick coming home to where it started, where, his first love of being part of the Giants coaching staff under Parcells and coming back and making his triumphant return. You talk about the game passing you by. I mean, granted, college is different. It's a different landscape. But, I mean, North Carolina looks like they want to, halfway, he'd hand him his hat and, show him the door. You want to bring him to the Giants with his 22-year-old girlfriend in tow? Roaming the sidelines? I could see it now. New York media would love it.
Oh, they'd go crazy. He'd be on the back page every day.
Every day. And the press conferences would be must-see TV.
Oh, phenomenal.
But I think the game has passed him by. And he's a legendary coach, but, he was a legendary coach for the team he had in New England. Tom Brady is not walking through the door to quarterback the Giants. They have a brand new quarterback. You cannot get this wrong. Jaxson Dart could be and seems to be maybe the franchise answer at QB. Don't mess this up. And, you know, we could say Joe Shane is staying, but who knows what happens at the end of the year? Maybe they have a change of heart because right now you keep the GM and you're looking for a new coach. And what if Shane, if they have another bad year next year, then you're recycling and doing the same thing over again. Now Shane's going to be gone, and now you're going to have the leftover coach. It's just a recipe for disaster. Everything just looks disjointed for this team right now.
Meanwhile, Tommy DeVito's like, oh, thank God I got out of there.
Manage that. Imagine that. They are just a recipe for dysfunction right now, and for a team that for so many years was a picture of stability between Parcells and I mean you have some rough years in there, but Coughlin comes in, brings stability. Even when Dan Reeves was there for a long time, they had stability at coach and they had leadership. Now it just seems like one hot mess after another. I mean, between them and the Jets, I don't know where you look first for less stability.
You mentioned Jaxson Dart. I am a little bit concerned that he's been in the concussion tent 4 times this season. That's
Yes.
not good. And you know,
No.
you wonder like how they're managing that kid. I don't know if they can completely clean house, but it certainly is something that I think I might be thinking about if I'm the Giants, if I'm ownership. Although then again, how long do we have to rebuild?
Right. I mean, Dart's in his infancy of his career. It does worry me about the concussions. Um, it really irked me when that scene on Thursday night unfolded a few weeks back with Daboll going into the tent, like kind of like what's going on, like rushing it, like that's a recipe for disaster. And that was a sign of that. That was the first sign. If you needed to know how desperate Daboll was to try to keep his job, that was this huge sign of desperation. But this kid also has to protect himself. He's got reckless abandon and he's got to learn it's okay to run out of bounds. Don't look for the hit because well, years ago, remember when Robert Griffin first started and he was playing for Washington? That first year, he was amazing, but he didn't know how to avoid contact. And his body took a beating. After 2 years, he was never the same. And you know what? That could easily happen to Jaxson Dart. And I don't wish that on any quarterback, especially one who looks like he has such a bright future as in Dart does. But you have to get him the right coach and you have to get him stability around him and somebody to grab him and go, stop doing that. You need to run out of bounds. Josh Allen, as big as he is, he slides. He's a big boy, but he slides when he has to. All the great quarterbacks learn to slide. Why? Because you need to stay upright and on the field. That's the only way you help your team win. It's plain and simple.
Let's cross the locker room at MetLife Stadium and go to
Oh
the
boy.
Jets, who, as bad as they've looked at times, I have to believe that they're closer to turning things around, to at least figuring something out than the Giants. You could see after the
Yeah.
first win, the weight off of everybody's shoulders, like, oh, we did it. And then they get a second win.
Yep.
And even the game the other night against the Patriots, while New England started to pull away, it wasn't like other games this season where it was, all right, this is over. We're done. There
Right.
was at least some sign of life that you're seeing
Mhm.
from the organization. Can they continue through the remainder of the season? I have no idea. But, from where they were before that first win to where they are now, just the mental attitude. And that's what a lot of players have said inside the locker room of that team. We've never quit. We've always been keeping a positive attitude
Mhm.
here. And you can see that at least in drips and drabs. And again, they didn't win, obviously, against the Patriots.
Right.
New England started to pull away, but I came away from that Jet loss with a completely different feeling than I
Yep.
had from the first 5 or 6 games this year.
No, I agree with you. I'm seeing the shift in the mentality. And now today, they announced earlier today, Justin Fields bench, Tyrod Taylor is going to be coming in to play quarterback. They're trying to do whatever they can to get wins under the belt. And that's what this team needs to do. I think it's asinine to say, the Jets need to just lose so they get a higher pick to get a quarterback. No, you need to put wins together. This is a team that's lost many games, many seasons. They need confidence, and wins build confidence. And you could see the change in Aaron Glenn. Everybody wants to rip Glenn and say, oh, is he going to make it through the year? What do you expect a first year head coach? He's never been a full time head coach. What were they saying about Dan Campbell in Detroit his first year? What did he win? One game his first year? It's about building a program, building confidence in your team, building trust. And Glenn is doing that. He's trying. I think the way he's handled the media, I think shows his first head coaching job, especially in New York, which isn't the easiest thing to do in the first place. But I think he's on the right road. Give him time and give him the space to grow the team. Are they a few players away? Yes. And the most important position in a quarterback. They'll get there. They'll have a decent draft pick. They have other draft picks that they got at the trading deadline that they can maybe move up to get where they need to be to pick the player they want. But I'm telling you, this Jet team, I think, is further along in the rebuilding process than the team across the other way on the locker room.
I mentioned the Patriots just a couple of minutes ago, and I know it stings Jets fans. I get it. They have a new coach, obviously not a first-year coach,
right,
but they've got a new coach. I think they're playing above their level, but you are what your record says you are, and they've beaten a couple of good teams this year in Tampa Bay and the Buffalo Bills. And what Mike Vrabel said was, you learn from losing. Hopefully you learn from losing. You learn more from your mistakes than you do your wins, right? But what he said was the thing that he was trying to get this team to buy into, and it seems as if it's working, is to learn from your wins. Don't just go, oh, hey, we won that game. Yeah, but why did you win that game? How did you turn that maybe from an almost loss into a win? What did you do positive? There was one clip a couple of weeks ago. It was really close. I think they were hanging on to a lead by the skin of their teeth. And Vrabel pulled Drake May aside and said, listen, forget everything that's happened to this point. We need one drive. Give me one good drive, and we seal this game. And I thought, I've never heard a coach put it quite like that.
Right.
Forget everything.
Yep.
That's all we need. And so you're learning as you're winning. And I think that type of attitude, does Glenn have it? I have no idea. But I am seeing some positive signs on the Jets sidelines.
It's funny that you bring up Vrabel. Whether he got the Patriots job or not, they had been saying he didn't really want to come to the Jets because the Jets were interested in him. A lot of players or a lot of coaches didn't want to come to the Jets because of the dysfunction. Aaron Glenn wanted to come here and prove himself. He wanted to come back to where he played. And you know what? You have a guy that wants to be here, is excited about coaching. Give him the time to build the program up. That's the only way they're going to get out of this constant influx of instability and losing mentality. You have a guy that can instill that, I think, if given the time to do so. And it's just, I hope Woody Johnson just stays back and just lets the people he put in position do their jobs. And let's see where it goes. Because you know what? At least they seem to be on a better track than with previous administrations, let's say.
Let's turn to baseball, and specifically Pete Alonso. His name has been coming up a lot. We're just a few weeks away from the baseball winter meetings in December. His name is coming up. In fact, JP Morosi said this morning on MLB Network that he thinks the Red Sox have the inside lead on signing Alonso. And I'm thinking, as a Red Sox fan, I don't know if I want Pete. I really don't.
Really?
I'd rather if they're going to sign an older free agent, I'd rather go with what I know, and that would be Bregman. I thought Alex Bregman was a perfect fit for that team this past year. And if I'm going to take my chances on a guy on the wrong side of 30, I'd rather go for Bregman. Now, I saw Jared Carrabba said Well, why not both? Again, do you want two guys on the corners
Right.
on the other side of 30? Meanwhile, Josh Naylor signs a 5-year deal
Yep.
with the Seattle Mariners, said to be worth about 92.5 million.
Yep.
Naylor's a couple of years younger than Alonso, not quite the power hitter that Pete is, but I'm wondering if 5 years, 92.5, if that sends a message to Pete saying, here's what you're worth. You're going to be 31 on opening day. You're not great defensively. Yeah, you got
Right.
a big, powerful right-handed bat, but
Yeah. As a Yankee fan, I'm really not looking forward to seeing Pete in Boston hitting in that park in Fenway. I think he would crush balls out of Fenway Park. But again, I see your point about being on the wrong side of 30. But also in the last couple of years, Jim, his batting average has actually risen. So maybe he is getting better with age. Maybe. I mean, I know the fielding can be an issue, but I think that's even overblown a little bit. I just see Alonso in Fenway Park, and I just see the baseballs flying out of Fenway left and right because I think that would be a park made for Pete. But you also got to say, like, who else would want him at this point? Like where else would he be? What other teams are going to be looking at him? Boston, I see as the best fit, but it's all a matter of, is there a desire for other teams that are going to need a first baseman? And really, the first base market is not pretty when you look at it. Other than Pete, it's Goldschmidt, definitely wrong side of 30. We saw that up close in the Bronx. Reese Hoskins, and I mean, Bellinger can play first, but he's more of an outfielder at this point. So it's really Pete's market. I think he's going to be the one to dictate, and maybe be the first one signed this year instead of, doing that dance with the Mets. But I still think if the Mets are smart, you keep that protection for Soto and you do what you need to do to keep him. He's a homegrown guy, but you don't know what the Mets plan is at this point.
I don't know if you saw what some of the stuff that was coming out about the kid Skeens from the Pirates.
Yes.
Always going to be a Yankee in a few years. Like, I want to be in Pittsburgh. Now, I'm sure he's just trying to say the right thing,
Right.
but that when free agency hits, this man is going to be very, very wealthy. There's going to be teams
Oh,
lining up to sign him.
yeah, absolutely. And do you put it past Pittsburgh, in once he gets close to free agency to trade him? I mean, how many pitchers have we see? Garrett Cole, and so many others, a litany of others, Tyone, and all these other pitchers that came up through the Pirate system. Skeens is just going to be another one, and I think it's so sad for such a storied franchise like the Pirates that this is just going to be another ex-Pirate at some point. It's just a matter of when. Would I love to see him in pinstripes? 1,000%. But what would it take to get him? It basically half your farm system at this point if Pittsburgh, was smart. But again, it just seems like Pittsburgh's already resigned to the fact, well, clock's ticking because, a few years from now, once he hits free agency, he's going to be gone. So what are we going to get for him? But I mean, the guy is just a beast.
He's fun to watch. He
He
really is.
really
He and
is.
Scooble
Yeah,
are both very, very much fun to watch. Throw a baseball around.
absolutely. And I mean, whoever, and even Scooble. I mean, the guy is a mega talent, and they're talking about he could be traded this offseason. So it's, I guess if teams figure they're going to price themselves out of the contract for players like this, might as well trade him and say, could you imagine him on the Mets?
Oh my gosh. And do you think the Mets need him?
Oh, just a bit. Yeah, the Clay Holmes experiment didn't work,
No.
guys. So maybe you need to bump it up a little bit more. Uncle Steve, if you're listening, you may want to make pitching at the height of your priorities this offseason.
Hey, before we sign off, a couple of pop culture notes. If you haven't seen the Bruce Springsteen film yet, and I know you haven't, Chris, but people watching slash listening, if you haven't seen it yet, make a point. It's very, very good. It's dark. I've heard a couple of comments of, oh, they got the Stone Pony Cats on a Smooth Surface stuff wrong. It's not about cats on a smooth surface.
Right.
It's not. As much as I love those guys,
Right.
I've known, I mean, everybody who's ever played in Jersey Shore Band at some point or another, I think, has been in Cats, but it's very good. It captures the essence of what was going on. And there's another film, it's been out for a while at various film festivals, but it's just coming on now to HBO Max, and that is One to One John and Yoko, which captures John Lennon and Yoko Ono moving to New York City in the early 1970s down into a small apartment in Greenwich Village. So it's pre-Dakota, but they've come into New York City at a time when there's a guy going through Bob Dylan's garbage. If you know the story of that guy,
Yep.
AJ Weberman.
Mhm.
And it's a fascinating story. I had a chance to speak with the director of the film, and I said, I obviously lived through all of this, but going back and seeing it all happen from that period, that 18-month period, I said, we think we're dysfunctional as a country now. And he's from Scotland, and he said, I had the same thought. He said, but I'm looking at it as an outsider. I mean, everything that's going on. You have Governor Wallace, there's an assassination attempt. They're trying to deport John and Yoko. Immigration problems. We've got the Vietnam War going on. There's civil rights things going on. It's just one after the other after the other, and you think, wow, maybe we're not as bad off now as we think we are. But it is a fascinating film, and there's footage of John at Madison Square Garden, the one-to-one concert, which was a benefit for the Willowbrook Institution out in Staten Island, if you remember that.
Yep.
The concert footage has been restored. Sonically, it's amazing, and it's a side of Lennon like we've only seen these grainy images from that concert,
Right.
and it's pristine, and it sounds so good, and you just think, oh, God, if we could have only, had him making more music, making more appearances. But those are two things I think you want to check out.
Oh, I definitely do. Absolutely, for sure.
And that's the 2-minute drill for this week. You know the drill. Like, subscribe, thumbs up. Well, you could do the thumbs down too if you like. I think it gives us more.
Thumbs up.
We prefer the thumbs up.
Exactly. We prefer it, but either way, give us a thumb.
Yeah, the way the algorithm, excuse me, take two. The way the algorithms work. I think even if you give us the thumbs down, these guys don't know what they're talking about. I think it boosts the stuff. Anyway, like, subscribe, all of that. If you like what we do, tell a friend. If you hate it, tell an enemy. Just tell somebody. And hey, we'll talk next week.
You got it, Jim. Have a great week.